Welcome. Thank you all for joining this quite exciting, actually, webinar on Copilot Studio. My name is Nick Freeman, so I'm a PPM consultant at Projectum. I am from New Zealand, so I've been working with PPM for over 3 years now. Moved to Denmark last year, so based out of Copenhagen, hence the why I'm doing it 10 in the morning in Europe time. But today I'm presenting to you a bit of a build-along webinar for Copilot Studio. Now, Copilot Studio, where it's kind of originated from, was originally called Power Virtual Agents, which was the original kind of chatbot builder in Microsoft. And I've renamed it now that we've got Copilot, which I'm sure on your LinkedIn you've seen lots and lots about. And this is a way for us to actually alter and change and actually design these chatbots to suit our needs as either a business or for personal needs or for whatever you like. Now, as I promised, that this is a build along, so I don't want to spend too much time on slides. I want to be quite active in this and actually get you guys involved. But I've got about 6 slides here just to introduce Copilot Studio, and then we'll get into kind of building along with me as we go for today. So we've got 3 kind of core enablers for what we see as SPM and PPM, right? We are a PPM house or an SPM house, so we use this for our projects, for our applications. But there are 3 kind of key enablers here. The first one is, I guess, the custom GPT, which is based in Azure OpenAI. This is where you build your own GPT models, right? So that's a little bit more complex. You need a little bit of training to do that. And you would need a bit of access to do that as well. But today we'll be focusing on chatbots in Copilot Studio, so I'll talk about in depth with that. And then we also have some things called in-app boosters, right? So things like in the Power Platform, we have the AI Builder. So things where we can create kind of actionable automation things to do some tasks for us that we may, we may be able to automate with this technology. So Copilot Studio, what is it? Let's talk a little bit more about it. So previously with Power Virtual Agents, it was a similar platform to this. It was still building chatbots, but what they've really put into Copilot Studio now is kind of this AI-powered engine in behind it. So it says there, without extensive coding, there is going to be no coding to the stuff that you're going to build along with me today. And it means that we can do things a lot faster. I will show you how easy it is to build these things. You can start very simple and build out quite a decent and helpful chatbot. It can be integrated into all of your Microsoft systems quite easily, whether it's Power Apps or Power Automate, or if you already have or your company has decided to launch Copilot, we can actually take these chatbots that we are using within our Copilot Studio and bringing it in as a plugin to Copilot, which I'll talk a little bit more about in depth as we go through the tool, and will make a little bit more sense. But in general, there's going to be a lot of AI today, which is going to be really fun to kind of work with. So I guess the big topic on this slide, think big, start small, is really crucial here, because we're going to start with quite a small topic, and we're going to build it out, and you can kind of start to think about some of the things you can do with this. It has the ability to interact with all different types of data sets, whether that be websites, which we're going to work with today. It can be documents, it can be SharePoint sites. And if you're a little bit more skilled or kind of get down that path, you actually start to be able to read data sets, such as SQL servers or Dataverse, if you like. From those data sets that we are giving this Copilot, one of the really great things that I'm going to show you today is the control that we have. So we have control right from what triggers these Copilots all the way through to how it actually responds to the data that we actually give it. So kind of full layers of control all within your tenant, which I think is just so important when we're building things like this. Now, in terms of our use cases, we typically take these Copilots or these chatbots into our PPM app, which I'll kind of show you how that works today. And that's where people can actually interact with data, maybe create projects, create ideas, enrich data, or even just learn about what's going on from in their PPM landscape in their business. Just a little bit on the architecture. I don't want to go into any technical details here because there's no need. This is not a session for architecture or IT systems by any means, but it is just important to just think a little bit about how this all works together. So at the bottom, we have the Power Platform, and on the Power Platform sits things like the AI Builder, which I explained to you a little bit about at the start of this, Copilot Studio, which we're going to be in today, and you'll understand more about. And then you have Power PPM, which is our PPM application that we sell to you clients. Some of you may be clients on the call, some of you may have it. And then that all sits all up into Copilot and a custom chatbot that we build. So what we're kind of saying there with the combination of, I guess, websites and documents into our Copilot Studio, we can have a chatbot that reads everything, right? Can look into our Power PPM data, can look into some best practice documentation, and then when the user is interacting, gets exactly what the business wants them to get, and saving, I would hope, quite a lot of time when it comes to some of those mundane tasks, or just generally looking for information around the business. So that's just a very general structure to how the architecture works. If you want more detail, there is plenty online about how the architecture works, kind of in a bit more detail. Cool. So I just want to chat a little bit about some use cases. And it's going to kind of lead into what we're going to actually do today with this webinar. So number one is support. So how do I know where to start with this project? So it may be a question that you get asked or people have been asking in your business. You know, you may want a chatbot that actually goes and reads internal documentation on best practice project management, right? So at their fingertips, they have control of that rather than going to have to look at a SharePoint site here or a PDF document over here. The chatbot has already got that information and is easily able to give that to the user when they use it. So that's one of the first kind of case studies that we would use for something like Copilot. The second one is creation. So with the support, obviously, it's reading information for us and giving us feedback on that. Now, the creation is actually, how can I get started on, say, for example, a project, right? So the Copilot can actually give you actionable an actionable way of actually creating new projects, ideas, or any other elements in your application that doesn't have to be project-based. Obviously, that's just what we do. But these chatbots are so very easily customized, so you can give it certain information and it can go and create something. And if we get time after this webinar towards the end, I'm actually going to show you how that kind of creation works in a chatbot. And last one is understand. And I think that's really quite common with where a lot of this AI discussion has begun with ChatGPT came in a couple of years ago, really understanding guidance on these documents. So one of the really cool things that you're able to do with this Copilot Studio is you're able to set it up with your internal SharePoint documents, read them, and actually provide some insights based on the prompting that you give it. And we will talk a little bit about prompting. I'll show you how you can do some prompting in this chatbot when we go through the build along today. So the two main ones today that I want to talk about will be support and creation. So we'll kind of reflect back to those case studies as we go throughout this build along. Great. Promise. Last slide, and then we're going to do some fun stuff. So licensing, pricing, and security. So at the moment, Copilot is on a trial basis, which means anyone can, as long as you've got a Microsoft license and your IT allows it, you're able to access Microsoft Copilot Studio. But this is kind of the pricing when it will start to be paid for, $200 per month, up to 25,000 messages per month. And it can be designed across different channels and websites and different way to engage users. So I'll show you where those channels live. It depends what your IT system allows in terms of where you can actually publish them to, but we can talk a little bit about that once we dive into where that actually lives in the application. Now, very important on the right, just information about security. It is built off the GPT 3.5 turbo model from Azure OpenAI service, but it very much means that this information that you put in today will not be available to anybody else other than you or people within your tenant, okay? So it means that the information that's going into your chatbot, the documents that you're adding into that chatbot, they're not going out to the web and then coming back in. It's all staying within your tenant. Okay, so that's super important when we are talking about this. It is obviously a conscious decision that we don't want our internal, sometimes confidential or classified information going out to the world for other AI models to learn on. Trust me, that is not the case with what we're doing today. It's all going to be within kind of your tenant, which will be nice. Cool. So that wraps up the introductory stuff on the slides. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to switch my screen here, and I'm just going to present to you how we're going to get started building on a chatbot. So in the chat, there should be a link there for you that Nicolina has kindly put in there for you to go into Copilot Studio. So you can enter that link into your browser, and you should come to something like this. Obviously, I've been in here before, so you're not going to have recent Copilots. It may come up with a system message like, welcome to Copilot. You can just go ahead and skip that and go ahead and start creating the Copilot, okay? So I'll just give you a few moments to do that, and I'll just get this prepped up for what we need to do. Cool. So hopefully you're in Copilot now. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to take things hopefully quite slow for you guys. Obviously, I have a time that I have to work towards. I can't take forever, but I will do my best to kind of stop and reiterate what I've just done to make sure that you can keep up. But I do hope that what we are doing today is going to be quite simple and flow quite easily into building a chatbot. So I'm going to go ahead and create chatbot. It might be here. It might just be something in the middle of your screen right now, but let's go and create Copilot, right? So first thing that we want to do is give it a name, right? Now, this is a name that people will see. So if you publish this Copilot into Teams, for example, this is the name that it'll see. So we'll just say webinar chatbot live. I've done a lot of demo ones. What language do you want it to speak? There are a few languages. There's not everything. I'm going to stick with English today because unfortunately that's all I've learned to speak right now. And then we've got something really cool here. So we've got the first kind of instance of where we can actually start to use AI. So what it's asking is it's saying, can you give us some information so that when you start interacting with the chatbot, we can actually do something. So what I'm going to do very quickly is just post a link into the chat for you guys. Give me a moment. In there. So what I want you to do is if you can add that website into there that I've just posted into the chat. And all this is while people are kind of doing that and adding that in, is it's just a library from the Project Management Institute of all different things, types of ways of managing projects, just different information. It's a public website, but something that'll be useful for kind of what we're doing today. So paste that in there. That's all you need to do. And then you can head down to the bottom of your screen where it says the nice big green button and hit create. And then what it's going to do is it's going to show us a nice picture of a cute robot being built, which is essentially our chatbot kind of starting up. And it'll take about a minute or so. This will kind of be different for everyone. I mean, it probably won't be as quick as me because I've built a few before. But if you just give it a moment, it'll come. Great. Cool. So we've built our chatbot already. Which is, less than, I guess, 5 minutes of actually building a chatbot that's live. But I just want to talk a little bit about a few things that we've got on this screen here. And then once your bot is provisioned up here, it means that you're pretty much good to go, okay? So you can see on the left, we've got a test pane. So this is actually our chatbot, okay? So this is actually where we're going to be starting to enter in information. You can see you've got a welcome message here, all right, where it's saying, hi, I'm a chatbot. I'm going to use AI. We're going to provide websites during creation. Try and ask me something about it. Next, try giving it some more knowledge about generative AI. So we can actually go ahead and alter that if we like, okay? So into the topics on the left here, topics and plugins. This is kind of where we're going to spend most of our time today. This is kind of our triggers. This is our topics as they are for our chatbot. So Once you've hit into topics and plugins on the left, you'll see a bunch of kind of standard topics. Now, you would think that this is greeting. It's not. We're going to go to the system here, the 9 in the system, and we're going to go to conversation start. Okay, so we're going to click that. And you'll see you'll have trigger on conversation start. And then if I open this up, you can see, hello, I'm bot name, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to remove this out of here. And you can kind of write whatever you like. And you can say, a virtual assistant, I am here to guide you with project management best practice. Oh, better self-spell that right. Ask me something. Cool. Now, once you've done that and entered your message in, what I want you to do is go into the top right corner here and hit save. This is something that we're going to do quite a bit today just to kind of get you used to it. And then you're going to refresh the chatbot. As you can see where my mouse is just hovering over this refresh button here, we're going to refresh that. And you can see what will happen. Now we've got a new welcome message. I'm here to guide you with project management best practice. Ask me something. So we're already starting that user off with information as to what actually this chatbot does for us. Okay. Awesome. Now I want to show you the first cool thing for this morning's build along is that we don't actually have to do too much else to actually start interacting with our chatbot. So you would have remembered that we had put in a website, which I showed you was the learning library for the PMI Project Management Institute. So I want you to go down to your chatbot now in the kind of the message here, and I want you to ask it, what's the best way to start building a project plan? What's the best way to start building a project plan? Something very simple, and it will take a moment. And then what it should do is it's going to read that information that we've already put in. So what it's done is it's gone, okay, you've asked me something that about the information that you've given me in the generative AI, and I'm going to give you an answer. The best way to start building a project plan, blah, 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 blah. And what's really cool is these links here are actually showing you where in that documentation I'm pulling this from, right? So if I click the one here, you can do the same as well if you like. It's showing exactly the information that it's pulled from that website to show you where it's got that from, which I think is actually really something that's quite cool. And you can imagine if you've got, say, for example, SharePoint documentation, it is very easy to find out where you're actually getting this best practice information from, or whatever information your chatbot is supposed to be doing. So how does that all work? What I want you to do is we'll go back to topics and plugins on the left here, and we're going to head back to the system. Okay, so system with the 9 here. And then once you're in the system under topics and plugins, I want you to head to conversational boosting. Okay. Now, what this conversational boosting is that when it asks something that we haven't actually given a specific topic about. So if we haven't outlined in our topic that anytime we ask about project planning, go down this route, it's going to say this is an unknown intent, which is what this question was. And then it's going to say create generative answers, which is public websites, right? And if I click the data source there, you should recognize that this is the link that I gave you at the start. Now, what you can see here is we can actually add multiple links to this, right? We can add SharePoint links. We can add different services to your Azure OpenAI. You can add custom data. We're just going to stick with public websites today because it's the easiest to work with, okay? So once it has that, it reads the data and then it gives you some answer out of that based on what it's reading. But what I'd like you to do as well is actually hit this back button up here on the left where it says create generative answers. And it's going to take us back to essentially how this data source is built. And what I would like you to take just a little look at is the custom instructions, or the preview, right? So this is actually where we start prompting things. And I'm going to just paste this in the chat just because it's easier rather than typing it out for everybody on the call. And I want you to paste this message that I've chucked into the chat into here. So respond in very simple and easy to follow terms. You are a guide for project management best practice. give bullet points where possible, be very friendly, okay? So now what we're doing is we're really trying to take control of what we're doing with this chatbot, right? We're giving it a data source that we control. And now we're saying, I actually want you to respond in a certain way, another layer of control, okay? So once you've done that, added that in, as we know, hit save. Topic save, and then what do? We refresh our chatbot on the left here. You can see where my mouse is, hopefully. That refresh button up there. And then we're going to go back and we're actually going to ask it the same question, right? We're going to say, oh, better click it, it'll help. What is the best way to start building a project plan? Can handle spelling mistakes pretty well, but I'll just do it right, just webinar purposes. All right, so we'll just let that think about it. Awesome. So you can see now that what's happened is it's actually listened to what we've said as a prompt. It said, okay, I actually need to give you bullet point answers. And it's gone through very clearly, define a project scope, create a work breakdown structure, identify project activities, etc., etc. So it's actually listened to exactly what we're asking it to do based on the prompting that we've given, which again, I think is really cool that we actually have that control just by typing something in and prompting it. And you will get better as you go with prompting. But yeah, it's definitely a way to help us kind of control how this chatbot works. Okay, so what do we want to do next? So we've kind of gone in here and created very simply a chatbot that kind of works on a website already, right? You could say this is a working chatbot based on some information that we've got on a public website. But let's say now we actually want to direct this chatbot to be a little bit more specific, right? We actually want to start going down a more specific route of what we think the user will actually use this chatbot for. Okay, so what we're going to do is you can either click topics here or click topics and plugins on the left, whichever you want. We're going to refresh our chatbot here. Okay. And up in the top corner here, you can see just above topics and plugins, I've got the create button. And there's a few things that we can do. We can use plugin actions and Copilot plugins, which we're not really going to talk too much about today, for another time, maybe for another webinar. But we're actually going to create a topic from blank. Okay. So I want you to go ahead and click that. And then we've entered straight into the trigger, right? So what the trigger means is, as I showed you with kind of the unknown intent or the conversation start, the trigger is, when should I activate? The topic is asking, when should I go down this route? Okay. So what I want you to do is click edit here. And yep, you might have to click edit twice. Sometimes it just gets a bit confused. The app is still working itself out. All right. Now, what we're actually going to do is this is going to be a topic that's called up in the top left corner here. We're going to call this project methods. Okay. So the point of this one is what we're going to ask it is, if people are asking about different ways to run a project, we want to give them some information on that. Okay, so the phrases that they might ask might be something like how to manage a project. Enter. Very easy to keep adding phrases. It says you kind of need to add a minimum of 5. So we'll kind of go down what is waterfall. And I'll stop at the end of this so you can kind of catch up if you need. And we'll go, what is Scrum, maybe? And then we might add something in, something like, how do I run an agile project? And then maybe something like, how do I run a sprint? Something like that. Okay, so I'll let you guys kind of catch up and you can kind of enter that in, or you can change a little bit if you like, but to kind of follow along, you kind of want to have that kind of basics in there to follow along this topic. So we're saying if the user asks anything like this, and it's not specific to that, and that's the great thing about Copilot Studio now, is it's going to recognize if there's anything of these keywords or anything around these topics, it'll recognize that and take us down that trigger, which is really nice. Okay, so first thing I want you to do once you've got all of those in, hopefully you've got most of them or if not all of them in, we're going to go and add our next step, right? So we're going to hit add node here. There's a little plus button, and it's going to open up, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do. Okay, and we're going to keep it fairly simple today, just because I know it's your first time with Copilot Studio, so I don't want to scare you off this early. But we're going to start with something simple like ask a question. Okay, so we'll just hit ask a question there. And then we'll say, and I will say, I'm going to post this in the chat. Like I said, this is just a bit easier to do when you guys have this rather than typing some of this stuff out. So I'll post this in the chat. You guys could go ahead and grab that. So sounds like you are looking to investigate different ways of running a project. Which one of these methodologies are you looking for guidance on? Okay, so we're actually giving the prompt to the person to say, actually, we think that you're looking for project methodologies. And then we should give it some options for the user, okay? And we're giving some form of control here to us to say, where do you want to go with this? So you can see it's set up for multiple choice options, which is what we want, okay? And then we're going to add an option here. So we're going to say new option. We'll just call this Agile. So they may want help with Agile. We're going to open it up and say waterfall. They may want help with waterfall, or they may want help with maybe hybrid ways of working. Or they may want some help with, no, this is not what I need, right? Now, what's really cool and what hasn't happened previously is you can see that these conditions have outlined for us already. So we don't actually have to go and create these conditions for us. It's actually taking us down these routes. So it means that if somebody selects Agile, it's going to take us down that channel. If somebody selects waterfall, down this channel, etc., etc. Okay, so it's really helping us with trying to get down to the area that we need. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to just test this just to make sure that what we've written in here is correct and it's triggering in the ways that we want. So as you know, should be well versed at now. Hit save in the top right corner. Taking a minute. And then we're going to refresh the chatbot just so it can take the save. And then we might say, I am looking to run an agile project. Can you help? Excellent. Now, also something that is very, very cool about Copilot Studio is you see it's completely skipped the actual need for us to select Agile here. So it's actually making that user journey so much more smoother, right? The chatbot has realized that this person is asking about Agile, so it's going to take us straight down the Agile, right? Or if we just refresh this chatbot here and we do another test and we say, how should I run my project? Something like this. Then it gives us the option to actually pick, are you looking for agile ways, waterfall ways, hybrid, whatever. So then we could select agile, for example, and then you can see how the green is there taking us down that right condition. Okay, so we're happy. We know that it's triggering in the correct way. It's going down the right conditions. We can kind of keep building out what we need to here. Okay, so we're actually just going to stick in the agile realm for today's demonstration. We won't have time to go through everything, as you'll start to see when we build this out, but the methodologies of what we're doing will be the same. So if you kind of get off the call or next week or later when you pick this up again, you'll be able to kind of follow along what we did in the agile and then hopefully replicate that in the other types of projects or in a completely different chatbot completely. So what I'm going to do again is just do what I've been doing so far. I think it's working well, is just posting this in there. So I've just posted a question. So we're going to go ahead and add node at the bottom of Agile. So I'll just let you guys see where I am at the moment because you're probably looking at the chat that I just posted. But add node here. So you might have to scroll down. Your screen might not be as big as mine. Open that up. And then we're going to ask a question. Right. And then that thing that I posted, the text that I posted into here, I'm just going to drop into here. Oh, sorry. Great. I can help you with your questions around agile working. We already know that they're down agile because they're going down that way. To get us started, would you like a small introduction to Agile, or are there particular areas you need help with? Okay, so again, we are asking the user to decide something. Okay, so that means that we want to go and add an option, which is yes or no, I have specific requirements. Okay, so I just open this up just to make sure this makes sense to everybody. I can help you with your questions on Agile. To get us started, would you like a small introduction to Agile? Yes or no, I would like I have specific requirements. Okay, and again, it's popped out a decision for us, a condition for us to do. We can actually go ahead and rename these variables if we like. This is just a way to keep things tidy in our chatbot, because if we start to reference these variables in different actions or automation, it's really important to actually have this named correctly. So I'm just going to click, you might have to click it twice. Like I said, app's still working itself out a little bit. You click the var2 here twice and you should get something on the top here. So we're just going to go and rename it Agile Response, maybe 1, for example. Okay, just something so that the variable is really easy to pick up. Like I said, if we're picking it up in kind of other automation or in apps, for example. Okay, awesome. So we're going really well, guys. So hopefully you're following along and keeping up. So what I would like to do now is we're actually going to go ahead and start on the yes side. So we're going to do both sides of here. We're going to do yes and specific requirements. I'm going to show you kind of what that means. So I'm going to add a node below the yes condition here. Okay, so we're going to open up a node, and instead of asking another question, we already know what they like. Sorry, not what they like. We already know what they want. They want some basic introduction into Agile ways of working. We're actually going to go down to advanced, and we're going to click generative answers. Okay, so all the way down to advanced and then generative answers. Awesome. So you should maybe recognize this tile actually from when we started with conversational boosting, which was that kind of unknown intent. The bot doesn't really know, so it's going to go down that trigger. This is where we actually create that generative answers from AI. So I'm going to click edit here in the it's going to take a bit. Might have to go. Cool. And then we're going to click the data source on the right there. Okay. So just so if you didn't see that, we click edit in the data source and then click data source to take us where we want to go. Now I'm just going to post in this link in the chat, which you can pick up, and I'll explain what's happening whilst you guys pick this up in the chat, just to make sure everybody's keeping up. So I want you to go ahead and just grab that link and post it into public websites. Now, there are limitations for these websites that you add. It essentially goes about 4 layers down. So you can see essentially in this website that we've got here on Agile Project Management, this is 2 layers by the backslashes that we've got. So it can go essentially about another 2 layers, I think, and then it will error and say you can't go any deeper than that. Okay, so you have to keep it kind of on that high level. But this is the website that we've just posted in. It's just a website on Agile ways of working. That's just on a public website, but this could be very much your internal best practice ways of working with Agile. Okay. And again, what I would like to do is let's just add this in as a prompt as well. So we know that this person is very new to Agile. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in the prompting, we're going to paste this in, and let me just chuck it into the chat in there for you. So explain in very simple terms, the user does not know anything about this topic, be very friendly. Okay. So we're actually asking it to go down into the new data source that we've got, the Agile data source, and explain in very simple terms what this is all about. But we need an input first, right? We can't just give the generative answer yes. It's not really going to know what it's asking. Okay, so we need to kind of say to the give me a simple breakdown of Agile project management. That's our input. Okay, so we're going to save this here, and then as we know, we are going to refresh the chatbot in the top here, and we're going to go and test it again. Okay, so we're going to say, how do I run an agile project? And it's probably going to skip it because it's got the word agile in it. Great, I can help you with your questions around agile working, which is what we wanted. To get us started, would you like a small introduction to agile, or are there other particular areas you'd like help with? Great, we're going to go yes, because we haven't configured the no yet. And then it's going to take us down the generative answer side. It's going to read the data source, and it's going to take our prompt, and it's going to give a very comprehensive overview of agile project management is this, right? Nicely bullet pointed for us. And again, if you clicked any of those links, I'll click 3, for example, it's going to take us to where in that website. Obviously, it's just one page, but it's going to take us to where that data source has actually come from. When you kind of ask it to be friendly and things like that, sometimes it does change, sometimes it doesn't. It will learn as these chatbots get built and you start to use them around the system. And I'll show you how you can actually give it feedback towards the end of this demonstration. So cool, awesome. So now we have a chatbot that's taking us down the route that we want. It's giving users a really basic introduction into Agile, which is what the user was after. This is kind of the key aspects of Agile. But what about the people that have more specific requirements? Okay, so let's do that, and let's do a down this route here. So we'll just refresh this chatbot just to remove a bit of the noise out of the page. And just depending on where you are on the page, we're still on that same trigger topic. So we just want to scroll down to the bottom. And then we want to go down to our no, I have specific requirements. Okay. So this is where we actually need a little bit more information from the user, right? So we have asked them that they actually have specific requirements. So what are those specific requirements, right? So let's go ahead and add node and ask a question. And I can pick up the pace here a little bit because I think you kind of know what we're after. Okay. And then quite simply, what is it specifically you are looking to know about Agile? And then what we need to do is just something a little bit different to what we've been doing before with these questions, is actually change how we identify this answer. So instead of a multiple choice, we're going to click this multiple choice. Like I said, you might have to click a couple of times. You're going to go to user's entire response, and that'll just store that as a string, as you can see there. And then what we want to do is we'll just click var2 here, and we'll just go agile response 2. Now, I feel like I got a little bit fast there, so I'm just going to go back and just revise that a little bit. So we asked a question here, what is specifically you are looking to know about Agile? We went and hit identify here, and we clicked user's entire response. And then we went and just clicked it probably is var2 if you haven't changed this yet, or just clicked this variable and then just save that as agile response 2, just to keep things tidy as we kind of go along this chatbot. Okay, awesome. So now we want to actually generate an answer for them, okay, because now they've actually told us something. They've given us an answer as to what they're actually looking for. So again, we're going to go ahead and add node just underneath, and we're going to go advanced here, and we're going to go generative answers. Okay. Now what I want you to do is the same link that you put in for this one, I want you to put into this one. So we'll just go ahead. I'll do it myself so you guys can see how I'm doing it. So we can copy that or get it out of the chat if you want, but you want the Agile best practice one. And then we're going to click edit data source on this generative answers, and then pop that in on the right here into the public websites. Okay. And add. Awesome. Now, the input here is still blank because it doesn't know what we want, but we actually want to hit this little arrow button here on the right of the variable, and we're going to say what variable we want. We want agile response 2, right? We don't want agile response 1 because it's going to be up there. We don't want that. We want agile response 2. So we're saying that variable which holds the answer or what the user is actually asking, puts it into the data source, and then that's what it's going to read. Okay. Now, the last thing that we want to do, and what we've been doing often in this, is actually head over to the right here, which you should have your data source up to create. But if you haven't got that, just click edit here, and it will take you to this pane on the right. I'm going to hit this back button again, and I'm going to post into the chat a prompt to chuck into there. Right. Now, as you guys are doing that, answer in an informative way. Assume the user knows the basics around Agile project management. Ensure to answer specifically to the areas they are interested in. Okay. So we already know that this user has specific requirements, right? It's they've already gone down into the Agile if they need an introduction, but they may have more specific requirements here. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and save the top right corner. And we're going to refresh. Cool. Now, let's interact with our chatbot, and let's see how far we can go down this this route here. So I'm going to say, I have some requirements around managing a project, managing an Agile project. Okay. Great, I can help you with your questions, blah, 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 blah. We know what that says because we've built it. No, I have specific requirements. What specifically are you looking to do in Agile? Okay, so let's say I need some guidance on Scrum, for example. So what it's going to do, go down into our data source, look at the prompt, how should I be responding to this? And it's going to give us, again, a very, very comprehensive view on Scrum, right? It's not taking in a general view of Agile project management, so to speak. It's actually looking at Scrum specifically, okay? And it's giving us a nice bullet pointed way, and we can kind of change this and say, actually only give us, maybe 3 bullet points max, or just make sure that, you're not creating a lot of noise with how much information you're giving. It depends how you want this chatbot to kind of run. Now, the very last thing that we're going to do, we're at about 15 minutes to go, and I do want to leave some time at the end for people to ask questions, and I do have one more little thing I'd like to show as we go. But I want to show you how we can actually add a way to give feedback to the chatbot. Okay, so the key thing about AI is you want to train it. Okay, you want to give feedback just like any employee. You give good or constructive feedback. You want to give the same thing to these AI models. So what we're going to do is just below the condition here where we've said yes, we're going to actually open up this node here, and we're going to say down into topic management, go to another topic, and then we're going to put end of conversation. Okay. And we're going to save this. And once it saves, we'll refresh, and I'll show you. It's better while we show how we ever look at it when we're using the chatbot itself as to actually what this is doing. Okay. So we'll say, I need help with Agile. So just type in, I need help with Agile. And then, do you want a small introduction? Yes. A little bit of thinking. And you can see we got pretty much what we got last time because we didn't really change what we were asking, right? But it's also said, did this answer your question? Okay, so we're actually giving a way to feedback to the tool to say, yes, that definitely answered my question. Great, can you rate your experience? That was a 5 out of 5, of course. Can I help you with anything else? No. And then it will say, okay, goodbye. All right. So you've built a chatbot, hopefully. It is, I think, relatively easy considering how these chatbots have been built in the past. It makes it a lot easier to go down different routes, create conditions, but also for the user to actually understand how to build these things. Typically, there's been a lot of code involved, Power FX, whatever. This is actually very, very simple, and you can see how we can just use documents, SharePoint sites, whatever it might be, to actually read our documentation and give users some insight to some of the information that we want. So what I might do is we've got 15 or so minutes left. I actually want to show something that I've already built. So this isn't going to be part of the build along. You've done that, so you can kind of sit tight and kind of watch the next part. But what I'd get you to do is, if there's any questions that you have from this, please post it in the chat. More than happy to kind of go over them towards the end of this. I'll probably leave 5 or so minutes, happy to go a little bit over if we need. But I just want to show you something a little bit more, I guess, advanced, extra for experts, whilst you guys are kind of thinking about maybe some questions that you've got around the Copilot. So I'm just going to head out. So like I said, this is not the build along part. This is just me going to show you kind of something that you can do in Copilot. So I'm just going to head to one of the other Copilots that I've built previous to this in preparation. And I'm going to take you through some of the steps that I did to kind of get this working, and then kind of how it all works going forward. So I don't know if you remember we had the case study that I presented at the start, which was creation, right? How do we create things from a chatbot? So I'm just going to head into topics and plugins on here, and I'm actually going to go into the topic that I created previous to this to have a look at how I've done this. Okay. So my triggers are create a new project, start a new project, begin a new project, etc., etc. Okay, so if a user is asking anything about how do I want to create a project, this is where I want them to go. Okay, now obviously I'm banking on the fact that I have a PPM system where I can add this project to. It might be a spreadsheet that you want to add it to. It could be a SharePoint list. It can be anything, but I'll show you kind of how this works as we go down. So I've set the trigger up, create new project. What is the name of the project? It's a string, so it could be anything, right? It could be numbers and letters. It could be absolutely anything you like. The next question is, what is the start date of the project? What is the end date of the project? Provide a brief description of the project. And then what is the type of project? Okay, so I've just asked it some key information about just to get something going. And this could just be even from a pipeline point of view, right? So this doesn't have to be a project. It could just be getting something into your ideas, into your funnel to decide on whether actually we decide and prioritize this as a project or not. And then what I've got here is an action, and I will just open this up again just to show you what this is. So call to action is actually where we do the actions, believe it or not. And this is where you can kind of create basic actions. Now, if you've had anything to do with, sorry, I don't mean to skip there. If you've had anything to do with Power Automate, this is kind of where what I'm going to show you is based on, but it is where you can go and add rows to spreadsheets, SharePoint lists, Dataverse, SQL servers, whatever you like, okay? And you can create that kind of pre-defined action, which is this create project action, which I've already built up. I'm not going to go into that. It's not the purpose of today's call. But if you want more information about it, if you want to kind of go to that next level, please do send me an email or send a message, and I'm more than happy to kind of walk you through some of the steps on how to build that, which is a very, very simple Power Automate flow. But essentially what Power Automate is asking me is for 4 key things here. What is the project name? Cool, I've already done that. The description, the start date, and the end date. Okay, and I've fired those into the automation so that when this goes down the chatbot, it can read those things that the user has input for me. And then we've got, last but not least, a message here, which I'll show you kind of in detail when we do the topic. Okay, so on the left here, I'm going to start it. I'm going to say, I want to create a project. What is the name of your project? We're going to go webinar test live. And then what is the start date? Now, something else that's really cool about this is I can say tomorrow. I don't actually have to give it a date in any format. What is the end date? I might say end of April next year. So just as people would say that, and then what it does is if it doesn't really know what you're asking, it will actually say, hey, can you just specify a date? So I'm actually going to specify the 1st or the 4th there for them. But there is ways for it to kind of read your text information going into date formats. You don't have to have, 1/1/2024 or whatever it might be. Brief description, showcasing actions in Copilot. And we'll say it's a CapEx project. Cool. So now what's happening is it's thinking about it. It's running that through the Power Automate action. And then once it's done, which we've got a new message, it says you've now created your project in PPM. You could add a link here if you like. And then it's saying the best steps in order to set this up for execution are define a scope, team, etc., etc. So we're just giving the help to the user. So then if I head over to my Power PPM into the Power App, I can go in here and I can hit refresh. So if I hit refresh up in here, you can see that, what do we have? Webinar Test Live has come into my app, into my Power PPM, and I click it. And you can see it's brought in the start date, the end date, the description, and the name. And we've got ourselves started, right? Now, as you can see, this is going into more of a PPM demo, which I know this is not the purpose of, but you could enrich a whole lot more data in an app. So this doesn't have to be PPM. It could be any app that you've got for managing your projects or managing anything, right? As long as you set up the automation to kind of suit the type of field that you've got, whether it's a date or a free text or a choice, you can actually start to enrich the data, which is a really, really nice way of doing things. Lovely. So that's more or less all I had for you guys today. So hopefully you have enjoyed watching me build it or building along with me. Hopefully it's the latter. But yeah, please do reach out if you've got any kind of questions. But if not, feel free to go about your days. Hopefully this is the most exciting thing you'll do today. And then you can go ahead and start building chatbots. Well, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking time out of your days. Really appreciate you guys turning up and having someone to talk to. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I'll speak to some of you soon.